And I just want to add on a little bit to Vicky's request for our meditation. I'd asked if anyone had a suggestion on what topic we might use in our meditation. And as you can see in the comments, she had asked for abundance. And then I had said that I will give you my version of abundance. So I hope that what you were able to experience, that sense of completeness, that sense of being whole, as being the state that we are really looking for. And it is an abundant state. There's a wholeness, there's a fullness to it. There's no sense of lack. And that is our true nature. There is no lack. So when we say often we want abundance, I think sometimes we have to be very mindful and careful of who is it that wants abundance? Who is it that wants more? To just be careful, because so easily it can be the ego that is creating the sense of lack to begin with, the sense of separateness, that sense of us coming apart, and that sense of lack, and then sending us out looking to fill this sense of lack with stuff on the outside world. But it will never get filled. It will never be filled. You will never have this. The ego only exists in lack. You cannot find satisfaction, contentment in the ego. And so bringing us into, in the meditation, where I'm always, I hope, bringing us into this state of equanimity, where we are feeling whole and complete in the absence of the ego, not needing anything to add on to the moment, not needing to push anything away. And as the question that I ask in the beginning, I ask you, what is it that you want more than anything else in the world for yourself? And asking you to look inwards for the answer. And most commonly, the answer is peace. Some variation of the word peace. And that peace is always here, in the absence of the ego, in the absence of the grasping, of the clinging. We are whole and we are complete. And so I just want to make sure we're always remembering what we're coming back to. It's here. It's always in here. And we can easily get distracted by this belief that we could just get more on the outside, we could have some experience, that our happiness is somewhere in the future. Once you've meditated for another 10 years, you've done another 10 more retreats, you've done more gratitude meditation, that our happiness is somewhere out there. And yet it is always right here, right now. The peace. And peace, I say happiness interchangeably with the word peace, but when I say happiness, I mean peace, the highest form of happiness. That sense of not wanting and not pushing away, right? That's the ego, that absence of the ego. Just that total equanimity and balance. This is what we want. And so we do have to be very mindful of how easily we can get pulled into thinking it's outside of us, thinking we need to add on more in order to feel complete and whole. We don't need to add on more. We need to see what is the obstacle to our peace. The thought that I need something, the thought that I need more. And while you didn't use this word, Vicky, but I'm going to use it, be careful of things like law of attraction. Be careful of things like that, where they tell us, you are attracting what you want, and you can have something outside of you. Something outside of you is going to make you feel whole and complete. Because anything outside of you, if you are wanting anything outside of you, and I mean, not that we don't need food and shelter and a job, and maybe you want to mate, things along those lines. Like we do have our basic survival needs, of course, that need to be met. But anything above that really is the ego coming into play. The ego will never be satisfied. It will never be satisfied. And so to imagine that we can attract anything we want with our thoughts, which, by the way, our thoughts are mostly fear-based and negative. So it's really hard for people to say, I'm going to think about everything I want in these terms of law of attraction, and yet I'm not going to have this state of lack at the same time. Not a chance. Not a chance. You're absolutely coming from a state of lack. You are creating the lack in the wanting. And so aside from the fact that the thoughts are mostly fear-based, that's we evolved to have, we evolved to focus on what could go wrong. We imagine that I can just attract, all these outer conditions and I'll be happy. And yet, what we want to, and so I do agree that it does kind of work, not in the way they're describing it. I mean, we love the idea. We love the idea. I'll just think about what I want and I'll get it and it sounds great, right? We all love that. It's an easy sell, yeah. But, of course, we spend most of our time thinking about what we don't want. I don't want that difficult person in my life. I don't want that person that criticized me last week. I don't want the unpleasant conditions. And therefore we do feel, we feel badly inside. Yeah, you could kind of say in that sense, you're attracting, it's mirroring, right? I'm not liking this stuff and I'm feeling badly, that's kind of mirroring. Or if I'm looking outside of myself and saying, I want these things over here, I want these things over here, I want that new house, I want that new partner, you are coming from a state of lack. And you feel that inside of you. It's not abundance. You feel that sense of lack. Wanting does not happen without that sense of lack. And so when we follow, the path of, say, law of attraction, we're just being taken on a fool's errands. When if we want to feel this sense of wholeness, the sense of completeness, and that's what we want, right? It's the ego creating this sense of lack, and then all the grasping and clinging coming out from it, the wanting coming out of it, the chasing, the desires, all of that coming out of it. We don't like that feeling. So, but when we remember then, what I want is to feel whole and complete. You will never fill up this aching hole that the ego has. You will never fill it up. There's not enough news in the world, there's not enough social media, there's not enough material objects to ever fill up the ego's insatiable desire for more, because it exists in a state of lack. It cannot be satisfied. And when we are really clear about that, and we know, what I want is that peace, the contentment. What I want is the not wanting, right? Or the not wanting, I'll even clarify it a little bit more. The not wanting with the idea that if I were to get that, I will be eternally happy. Or even just I will be happy. Because that's what creates the sense of lack. And when we know where that peace and completeness and wholeness, and that's why I use those words a little bit, more than I would use the word, I don't think I use the word abundance very often. I'm not sure if I use it at all, but it's that sense of completeness and wholeness that we're looking for. That's in here. That's in the absence of the chasing and the resisting. The absence of the desire and fear. The absence of grasping. It is available to you at any moment. At any moment that you come in and you have gratitude for everything you have. That might be where I would maybe use the word abundance. When you have gratitude for everything you have, this breath, being here this moment, and you just feel that state of wholeness and completeness. And because that's where your mind is, that's how you're feeling. You're attracting that. If you're reflecting on something kind someone did for you, right, and you feel that sense of wholeness and completeness. When you reflect on something kind you did for someone else, not on how you looked, that's the ego, but on just that sense of connection that happened through that kindness, that there was something you touched inside that motivated you to do something kind for another being. You feel that sense of wholeness and completeness. What we are looking for, that sense of abundance, is always here right now, in the present moment. And it's such a shame, like, we have these human lives. And it's as though we just, we never got the operating manual. We got the opposite operating manual, in fact, saying like how to live a life of scarcity and lack, and fear and resentment and judgment and anger, and feeling like I'm not enough and feeling unworthy and unlovable. Like that seems to be the manual we all got and started following. And so we come, to different paths. Spirituality, I find, is a good path to help us see what is the real manual. How can I be happy? How can I find this peace? Because it's not that it's outside of me, and it's not like these practices are taking you to anything outside of you. It's just removing all the obstacles that prevent us from knowing what is always here. Removing the obstacles that prevent us from seeing each other as real human beings that all want to be loved and accepted and included, that all feel pain and suffering, that we all feel it, right? And it doesn't mean that this path, spirituality, doesn't mean that we don't experience those things, but we don't push back on them. And we don't imagine I can only be, ecstatically happy 24 hours a day. That's not reality. As Mari is saying, it's like wading through the water at times. Maybe wading through, like trying to get through the water where it's a little bit tough. Trying to get to the other side and exhausting ourselves. Trying to hold on when the current's getting too strong instead of just letting go. And flowing and seeing what happens. None of us knows what's going to happen next. We don't know what's going to happen in the next minute, let alone the next hour, the next day, the next year. None of us knows. And yet we're constantly predicting, because my happiness is somewhere in there. That's the suffering. That's the lack. That's the opposite of abundance. And this is what we are trying to see in spirituality. To see the truth, the universal truth, the nature of reality, the nature of who we are, and the nature of who we are not. We are not the ego. We are not this little lacking, small, finite, limited, unlovable, unworthy little being that we have taken ourselves to be our whole lives, or most of our lives. I always say, I think it started somewhere around 3 or 4 years old, where we started identifying with this little voice, where we started feeling self-conscious. And it's hard to see this, only because we are so thoroughly identified with the ego, with the grasping. And so where this comes back to, where I was kind of going with this, thank you, Vicki, because your one word there has kind of taken us not only through the meditation, but a bit of a talk here. Even within spirituality, or spirituality adjacent, People will try to convince you that there's something outside of you where your happiness is going to be. And I am talking law of attraction. Or even just being careful of the word, just being a little bit mindful of the word abundance, if it brings out grasping or clinging. To be careful. Whatever it is, what you are seeking is already here. It's already here. And any path should be simply helping you to see what is already here and not bringing out more of the grasping, chasing mind. If it's bringing that out, it's not taking you to a sense of wholeness and abundance and feeling complete. It's taking you farther away. It's taking you farther away. And any moment of the day or night that we just can come into our breath. And I really do love coming into the heart center as well. And just feeling, that energy rising and falling. Just coming into the present moment, starting to hear the sounds. Maybe your eyes are open, seeing what's around. Feeling your heart center, feeling the breath. Just notice the grasping falling away. It's here right now. It's always here. But another challenge that we have is that we are so lost in chasing. And our nervous systems are kind of in this perpetually agitated state. Our phones being a big part of what keeps us in this perpetually agitated state. Consuming news, consuming social media, consuming YouTube, TikTok, the shorts that they now have on YouTube, this just constant feeding. I've got to get over there. And what can I feed? What can I stuff in my mouth? This constant feeding this insatiable beast. We don't even realize what we're doing half the time. We're just like, we're so on edge. And you have a moment where you're maybe on hold for a moment. You're getting ready to get on a conference call, or maybe a work conference call, and it's being delayed. And if your first response is to look at your phone, it's like, oh man, that chasing mind, that's who's in control. The ego. You're not feeling better, but it's looking, oh, we feel agitated. Look to the phone now. What can you find in the phone that will, dampen this down? It's not going to bring you a sense of satisfaction. It's going to bring more wanting. Right? We look at nothing exciting on email. No one told me I won the lottery. Let me go check on text. No, nothing there. Okay, let me go check on social media. Anything exciting there? No, nothing there. Okay, let me go back around to the news. Let me check that. Oh, let me do a few clickbait. Oh, nothing there. Okay, let me go back to email again. Let me just look again. Right? We're just in this constant chasing, where we had a moment for a few minutes because whatever delay it was that you had, you're stuck in line, you're in traffic, you're waiting for the conference call. There was a moment to feel the discomfort, feel the wanting that, oh, there's something outside of me that's going to make me feel whole and complete right now. And to set the phone down and take some breaths. To remember, oh yeah, this is what I want. This is what I want, the peace. Man, I thought it was that I wanted to see Trump in jail. I thought that's what I wanted. No, that's not what I want. Right? I'm just saying that as a joke for a lot of people that I know really want that. Right? You're not going to feel satisfied with that either, by the way. Right? No, this is what I want. I want to feel the peace here. But we are just following habits and thought patterns that we have been doing our whole lives and that everyone around us is doing as well. Everyone else is doing. We are very much a product of our society. Our thoughts are not original. They're the ones that everyone's having them, the whole same chasing and resisting thoughts. And we are kind of stuck on these cycles, these patterns. And we don't stop for a moment to go, yeah, I feel like there's something outside of me that's going to make me better. But what if I just paused for a moment and sit with the discomfort? It is uncomfortable, right? Because you're wanting, you're grasping, and then you breathe into it and you feel that spaciousness and you're like, oh my gosh, it's here. It's here. It's always here. So we have to be careful, because if we're following a spiritual path, if you're meditating, you're practicing mindfulness, you're coming on talks like this, look at all the ways in which we keep moving further away from what we most want. The question that we asked in the beginning of the meditation, what is it that you want more than anything else in the world for yourself? And asking you to look inside. What is it that you want? Most people want peace, joy, love, connection. And we might use other words, enlightenment, nirvana, to know God's mind, right? To feel God's love flowing through me. People use all sorts of words to describe really the quality of peace, the quality of non-grasping. That's what we're asking, or that's what we're saying that we want. And so when I ask the second question, what are you doing that is taking you further away from it? And what could you be doing more of that would move you closer? To be honest with yourself, unfortunately, a lot of the trappings of our modern day world, of technology, while amazing and wonderful, we're all here together from all over the world on this talk right now because of technology, here using technology wisely. But if we're looking at our phone 20 times a day, if we're hopping on social media, which, social media is just a wanting machine, a wanting machine. You are not smarter than the algorithms. They know how to get into your primitive brain. Or the news, I got to stay informed. Right? I like to stay informed as well. But we have to be really mindful of how we're getting our news, how we're consuming the news, what time of day we're consuming it, when we're consuming it. Is it out of a place of lack, of wanting, of thinking that the news is somehow going to complete me? Because it's not. And to notice that. So again, it's okay to go to the news. It's okay, some of the things that we're doing. You've got to check email. We do have to check our texts. Turn all the notifications off. Turn them off if you can, if it's within your, I know some people with their jobs or with kids, it might be a little bit difficult, but if you can, turn them off. We've got to pull ourselves out of the wanting machine. All of these technological advances. Remember, technology that was supposed to free up our time, supposed to make our lives better. Right? Instead, we're just spending hours and hours a day on technology, getting more lost in the wanting machine, getting more lost in the craving and the grasping, in the lacking and I'm not enough. Being mindful of what are we doing that is not just taking us away from what it is we most want, but is literally pushing what it is that we want further away. Not bringing us the peace and contentment that is always here. Now, if we want the operating manual for our lives, how to have happiness in a human body, we've got to see how the grasping, the clinging, the chasing, the I'm not enough, I need something, how that is just perpetuating the cycle, not bringing us to an end of completion. It's the seeing we don't need. It's the seeing that there is nothing outside of me that can bring me what it is that I want, which is peace, contentment, to feel whole, to feel complete, to come out of the sense of separation, because the ego is separation, right? That's what it's doing. It is literally splitting us into two. 1 minute we're sitting here perfectly fine, waiting for your conference call. Everything's okay. You see, oh, it's going to be 5 minutes. And then a thought pops in your head, reach for your phone. And that is the splitting of you into two. 1 minute, you're fine. Sitting here, you're breathing, everything's okay. You're hearing, you're seeing, feeling, smelling, tasting, you're sensing the world. Everything's okay. And then all of a sudden, this little thought pops up. Get the phone. I want the phone. There's something in the phone that's going to make you feel more complete. And we reach for it. And then we're just like the little hamster running around the wheel, chasing, chasing, chasing. Thinking that somewhere we're going to click and find that final click that's going to give us the sense of completeness. It's the putting it down. The being okay in this moment. Breathing. Knowing where you are. Hearing the sounds in your environment. Because when you're using your senses, when you're really seeing without commenting, hearing without labeling, tasting, touching, smelling, without commenting or labeling, without pushing back, without grasping, there's not two of you. There's just the one. There's just the one that is arising in this moment. That is arising and changing moment by moment by moment. There is nothing inside of you that is independent and inherent. The ego is an illusion. It's just an illusion. A very compelling illusion, I might add, because the grasping, we feel it. We can feel that constriction. I got to get over there. I've got to get something. I've got to get more success. I've got to get more followers. I've got to get more this. I've got to get more that. And I've got to push all these things away that are stopping me from getting all this over here. That's the suffering. And it's this thought arising. And we believe we are this little me at the center that's going to be happy if it gets over there. And it's unhappy because it's getting what it doesn't want. We believe that image of me more than we believe the reality that here I am, just sitting in a room, perfectly safe, perfectly okay. Not a problem in the world. But the moment I wander back up into my head, oh, the little problem machine starts spinning. Making problems, creating problems that don't exist, that aren't real. Pushing back on things that aren't happening. Imagining happiness is going to come from some future moment that is only going to be this moment when you get there. Because there's nothing on the other side of this moment that isn't here right now. It's only here right now. There's no state of abundance in the future. There's only right here, right now. We believe that little voice. It's so convincing that it's who we are. So convincing. And we fall for it every time. And so slowly, you do this as you're meditating. In your meditation, whether you're doing a mantra meditation, a breath meditation, vipassana, In any type of meditation, right? Your practice is you keep coming back. Your mind wanders and you bring it back. Right? You see the tension, you feel it coming out, and then you bring your attention back. So you're getting kind of that basic training in your meditation practice. And as we're going about our day, being more mindful, noticing when the mind is already at the store and you're still driving, or the mind is already 2 weeks out, imagining the good time that you're going to have, and yet your body is still here right now. And you keep bringing it back, and you keep coming back, grounding yourself back in the present moment. Whew, nearly got lost in it again. And having more and more evidence to see, man, I fall for it, but actually that's where the tension is. And I come back and it's a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning because it's not just that, well, there's the constriction that's happening, but also some stress hormones. Because we spend so much time having fear-based thoughts or believing I'll be so happy, there's stress involved in that. If I've got to get over there, and what if someone gets in my way? What if someone gets it first? There's not going to be enough left for me. So the stress hormones are there as well. That's a little uncomfortable. It's a little uncomfortable when we come into our body and we breathe. But now this is the path to end the suffering. Maybe you're driving to the store and your mind's already at the store. Already pissed off because they don't have the item that you need to make for dinner tonight. Or that you're already angry because you don't think you'll find a parking spot because there's never any good parking in front of Trader Joe's, whatever it is. And you think, well, if I can just get there, then the release will happen. And it happens for a moment. For a moment, you get there. There's a moment's release. Oh, they have the item. A moment's release. I got the parking spot. A moment's release. Not because of the item, but because the thought dropped away for a moment. But then it just starts back up again. Okay, now to the next thing. There better not be a big line at the checkout. They're so slow, they need to hire more workers. Right, back to the chasing, resisting. It's feeling it. You've got to be okay feeling the discomfort. We don't want to feel the discomfort, do we? We think this path should just be all bliss and happiness. You got to feel the discomfort. You got to come into the body. Breathe into it. Find that spaciousness. Find the release. Whenever you notice your mind reaching out, pushing back, you got to bring it back in. You got to bring it back. And you do this over and over and over. And you keep paying attention. You keep paying attention to it. Noticing this pattern, this cycle. Freeing yourself over and over. And then starting to really notice what's going on in each moment. Every one of us is just arising based on a million, billion, trillion different causes and conditions and changing moment by moment by moment. There's nothing here to even hold on to. It's not, we look at the outside and we think, it's all impermanent. I'm grasping at rainbows. What you think is grasping is also a rainbow. There's nothing here solid, independent, inherent. Just arising causes and conditions. Marcy, coming on this call now, joining us, saying hello, creating a new cause and condition, a new change in what's coming out of this mouth. Every moment, we are never the same person from moment to moment. That's what's so interesting. We're using our senses. We're seeing, we're hearing, we're touching, we're tasting, we're smelling, we're thinking. And it's changing moment by moment by moment by moment. The weather affecting us, what our dogs are doing affecting us, what the internet's doing affecting us, what I had for breakfast affecting us. Constantly changing moment by moment by moment. It's so boring, the thoughts that we're having. Same old repetitive, rehashing the same thoughts. So monotonous, so boring, so uninteresting. What's interesting is paying attention to seeing how it's all arising and changing, how you are arising and changing moment by moment. So we have to know what we're not. It's important to know what we're not. We're not the ego. We're not the grasping. We're not the chasing. We're not the resisting. We've got to see how we've been identifying with that our whole lives. And then to see what it is that we really are. That's what we're trying to do in spirituality. And don't imagine for a moment it's what you think it is. The ego trying to make some idea, some more divine, somewhere there's a more divine, me inside here. The enlightened me. If I can just find it. It always knows it will know the right thing to say. It will never be bored. It'll never feel sadness. It'll never feel angry. It'll just float around as everyone just praises it. That's the ego's idea of what it is. Be careful of that. Be careful of that. That's not it. Be willing to entertain the idea that what you think you are, whatever you imagine it is, that's not it. We don't want to transfer just this idea of I'm the ego, the unworthy, lacking, limited being, into this divine, blissed out, charismatic, perfect, never makes a mistake being. That's just the ego, just wearing spiritual robes over here. Oh, gotcha. It's not that. It's not it either. You are arising in each moment, different, never the same person, moment to moment. All the things that are happening in your environment, everything you've seen, heard, smelled, touched, tasted your whole life. Every person you had an interaction with, every person you had a missed interaction with, every teacher you've ever had, every bit of food you've tasted, every experience you've had, all shaping and making you who you are arising as in this moment. You are here. You are here. We're all here. But there is nothing solid and independent here. We can see the timeline, born to death, impermanent. And it's changing moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. Nothing in this universe, including you, inherently exists, independent, not affected by things outside of us. This talk affecting you, positively, negatively, neutrally. but having some kind of an effect. It's the intention that this talk helps wake you up. Helps you to see what's really going on. To wake up out of the nightmare of the ego, the nightmare of chasing and resisting, of lacking, of not feeling like you're enough. That's just a thought. Man, just a thought. And to start to see how you are just arising in each moment. You are like the river. You are the river. Sorry, you are the river. And as the river flows down, of course, the soil, you have fluid, like you're saying, Simon. As you know, some soil kind of comes off into the river and that flows down, and sometimes the river gets a little tight and you move a little fast. You're going around a few rocks and then it slows down a little bit. Maybe the grade changes. And then it's a big waterfall and it's whoo, and it's coming down into another big, big pool of water. I mean, that's it. You are the river. You are the ride. You are the ride that's always changing in each moment. You can't step into the same river twice. You're not the same person from moment to moment. That's what's interesting. When you think about how you got to where you are in this moment right now and all the millions and billions of things that happened and didn't happen for you to be arising here in this moment, that's what's interesting. The chocolate cake will still taste good. The holiday will still be good. The massage will still be good. No, we're not turning away the pleasant experiences in life. We still have them. There's no problem with them. But they taste and feel all the more sweeter without the grasping. Without the grasping. Okay, that feels about right to me. Vicki, I thank you again because look at how you influenced this call today. One word sparked the meditation and the talk, and I sincerely hope that this talk landed somewhere for you, that you could take something, no matter where you are in your practice, you could take something away to move you closer to what it is you most want.